Welcome everyone to the Unquestioned Podcast with Debaere and Willem, Himpe. And we are here again in our familiar setting. And Louis, how has it been? Now again, all the way in Belgium.
Back in Belgium, slower pace.
Slower pace, slower life.
Paces, slower everything, no bagels.
No bagels.
That's what I miss the most.
That's what I miss. And today we have a very good episode for all of you guys. But first, maybe a little question to you, Louis. You're wearing again your merch. Adidas is actually, I wondered when you started working at Runtastic, did you get like a whole wardrobe of Adidas gear? Or?
Yeah, we had the pretty sweet perk of having 44%
discount
on everything Adidas. So
44%.
yeah, as a
why
sneaker,
so specific? 44%.
Maybe that's the expected profit. I don't know.
Okay.
But as a sneaker collector addict, this was not a good thing because I bought way too many pairs of shoes.
So all kind of like Yeezys and all that kind of stuff was as well 44%.
Yeezys were a bit harder to get, but we also went to some outlet stores and had access to special Adidas.
Okay, nice. Well, enough about fashion, because we are not here to talk about...
But wait, why are you always wearing Boss like your hat?
Yeah, I always have my boss clothes because, I'm a motherfucking boss, Okay. Sorry for the cringe joke, sorry for the cringe goodness. But no, my parents have a Hugo Boss store, so I as well have like a little bit that 44% discount on not Adidas but on Hugo Boss. So that's kind of it. But I would say let's get straight into the episode. And today we're going to talk about what is an implementation detail. And maybe Louis, you're the perfect guy to set us up. What do you know is an implementation detail?
My favorite way of explaining this to people is I tell them, imagine you're going up to a like a Coca-Cola beverage,
like a was it a godverdomme a soda machine? Soda machine, like a soda machine.
Going to a soda machine, and you want your favorite drink. So what you expect to do is you put in a $2 bill or a €2 coin, and you get a Coke can or whatever bottle of water.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you don't really care what happens inside of that soda machine, and frankly, you don't know. There's no way for you to know.
Mm-hmm.
So there might as well be a little a small person, like a kid, inside there that's taking your money, checking if it's correct, and taking a soda bottle and handing it to you. You don't know. It is a black box. Now, of course, we know that this is an automatic machine. There's no...
There's no little man in there.
No, unfortunately.
Listen, my life is a lie.
But the interesting part is it could be. There's no way for you to know. And it doesn't really matter. As long as you get your drink in a reasonable amount of time, let's say you don't have to wait more than 20 seconds. The kid is not asleep.
20 seconds.
the machine,
okay.
the machine is not asleep.
Mm-hmm.
You have your drink. You don't care. It's a concept of a black box.
Okay. I think maybe for the listeners as well, what I could say in the real world is when a person orders a reliever book, so a book with all your memories in, for the user, it doesn't kind of matter what happens in the back. It just matters that they receive their book, and if it's now printed, let's say, in Spain, or if it's printed in Belgium with a local supplier, often, like now they start caring a little bit more about that, but eventually they don't know, and it doesn't matter, they just want their book, and they will only see a change if, for example, one of the printers has different paper or has different settings and so on, and then they will see the difference. But if it's just the same book with the same qualities, the user doesn't care what's happening behind the whole front experience of ordering a book.
So if you as a business owner decide to switch printers because you found a cheaper supplier, they wouldn't know.
They kind of wouldn't know, and that's kind of the the easy thing about customers, that they just want their service, because if they would have to handle every day about every purchase they make, everything what's happening behind that, then every purchase would be a massive dilemma, and it wouldn't be a enjoyable process, and that's kind of what's been done. But maybe in another example would be that you maybe could give the teleprovider, right?
Yeah, your cellular provider, so the company handing you your SIM card that you put in your phone initially and giving you a phone number. Now you can even switch carriers and keep your phone number, so you don't care if you're using in Belgium Proximus Telenet, in the US Verizon, AT&T. Who cares what provider you're on? It doesn't matter as long as you give someone the phone number and they can call you, you can call them. You don't notice who's running the back end of the show. However, if by switching operators, by switching providers, you suddenly get less
better or worse coverage.
Less coverage. Like you're in a small farmer's town, and
Correct.
You used to have 4G there because operator A covered that area, but now it no longer covers that area. Then it's no longer an implementation detail because you can see it, you can feel it as a customer. Mm-hmm. So it really matters, and it's part of the offering, the functionality that the user expects.
So the examples you all said, an implementation detail is something is changed in the full process, but the customer doesn't feel it, sees it, and so on.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that you change the whole backend, but you can make small improvements. For example, speed improvements are usually welcome.
Mm-hmm.
That the user doesn't have to know, but hey, if it's faster, it's faster.
Correct. Well, maybe let's change it or let's translate it into software. Mm-hmm. What does this actually mean in software and implementation detail? Is it so that a lot of stuff is happening in the back and we as a user have no clue or don't see any changes, but actually a lot is happening? Could you maybe give an example of Spotify or an example within the App Store?
Well, when you work on an app, like a lot of users don't realize this, but the Android version of an app like Facebook and the iOS version running on the iPhone, they are completely separate implementations. So usually they don't share much or anything at all. So there's a dedicated team building what we call the Android client and the iOS client, because they use the tools of the respective platforms, and they use completely separate programming languages, frameworks. Sometimes they share a little bit of stuff, but usually it's for native applications at least, it's a completely separate app.
These are all tools, but probably like if, for example, I switch from my iPhone towards an Android, I still want the same experience. That's a big kind of difficulty for Spotify and other companies, that the designer or the whole company wants the same experience for their customers, doesn't matter which device they have. So how much can you guarantee that the app is exactly similar? Because if it's completely differently built, because the tools and the let's say the building blocks that are used are different, how do they keep matching it? Or are there certain things, because you have all the building blocks, that it has to be a little bit in a different way?
The answer is as much as possible within the limits of the platform. So what you'll see is that designers usually have a design specification that, where they closely resemble each other. Sometimes you can't even tell if you're on iOS or Android, but there are certain platform-specific things, like, for example, the first device with a notch or with no home button. Like on iOS, there's a specific way users are used to navigating by certain swipe gestures that are mandated by the OS. And it's good to be a good platform citizen by integrating with new things. Like if Apple suddenly decides that all apps have, tab bars, then a lot of times you'll see a tab bar instead of a certain drawer on Android. And again, animations also, like pull to refresh. Certain apps have pull to refresh on iOS and not on Android because it's less less common.
It's kind of, to go back to one of our previous episodes, it's kind of the power you have when you have a ecosystem or a platform that the things that are built on top of that need to follow your standards or your guidelines, and that makes for the user a better experience. But for the people that build on top of it, they need to listen, because otherwise they won't be able to kind of create their creations or their companies on top of these existing platforms.
Totally.
Anyway, okay. And then maybe something else here that we've written down is refactoring is changing the implementation without changing the functionality. Yes, but then the next step, often when, for example, there's changes being made, like we see constantly updates and so on, but we don't see it physically. This is called as well with us, with the startup, we are refactoring. We are refactoring certain changes. Maybe we could explain to the audience what exactly that means and why are we doing that.
Yeah, we've all seen release notes where it says bug fixes and improvements, optimizations.
Mm-hmm.
And like for months on end, you don't see any updates, but you realize, I mean, these people have thousands of employees. What are they doing? I don't see anything.
Yeah, like on Twitter, I want to edit my tweet and still it's so easy.
Yeah, what are they doing? And
I know, they're drinking kombucha and doing nothing on their computer.
Yeah, for certain companies, for the most part.
Not anymore. All those people have been laid off. Okay, I'm sorry, I'll be quiet
now. Usually what comes with scale is you have problems because of growth, and then you spend a lot of time refactoring your code to get rid of legacy, technical debt, decisions that you made when your app was a certain size, but now it's grown, and now it's no longer certain things just can't handle the scale of your application. So you will move to more heavy-duty servers. You look for cheaper suppliers, of data, of server data, for example, and that's not visible to the user, but it makes a real improvement. And again, same with speed. You can start in a rich market where everybody has the latest devices.
Correct.
Good bandwidth, but then you move to an emerging market where people have very old, outdated devices, poor connection. Well, you also want these users to get onboarded and to be able to use your app in a normal way. So there you'll try to improve the speed again.
Yeah, in certain ways.
Yeah.
But often it's a business kind of decision. Do we still want, for example, Windows Vista, compatibility for our software? And if they literally see like our software uses so many more new technology on these existing ecosystems or platforms, it will not run, then they have to kind of make a decision.
Yeah, migrate,
and then they won't be able to use that software. But that's as well kind of how the world works in tech. Everything is constantly going faster and upgrading, and it's eventually as well to help the end user.
And for security and all these other reasons, and to enable, like for a store owner, your point of sale system, if it's still running Windows XP or Windows Vista, and somebody comes up with their Apple Pay, Google Pay, it has to support that. So it's security, stability,
correct,
and new features that users expect you to have.
So Louis, let's maybe quickly recap for the listeners. What is an implementation detail now in very broad terms?
Mm-hmm. It's everything behind the scenes that you as a user don't care about.
Yeah. And I would say it's maybe another definition is, for example, when you have a house of Lego and people are changing little blocks of that house, the Lego house still does it function, people can live in it, people can do anything with it, but you're like changing little details of it, implementation of it, but its broad function that people are using it is still exactly the same. Okay, the yours is a bit shorter than mine, but okay, hopefully the listeners will understand. And then one more thing I wanted to say, we've heard from some listeners that I actually have a very West Flemish laugh, and you have a very American laugh. So please, any one of our listeners, I want a definition of what a West Flemish laugh is. I've been asking it to ChatGPT and anything, but I haven't found anything. So please let me know. And voila, I feel like that's a good recap. Hopefully I get a little DM from someone with a little definition. So thank you very much for listening, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed it and you learned a little bit about what an implementation detail is. And please give us a thumbs up, follow us on Spotify, and hopefully we'll see you back on the next episode of the Unquestioned Podcast. Bye bye.